Hey friends, you're tuned in to the Learn or Be Learned podcast, a show where wisdom meets curiosity in order to discover the human experience. I'm your host, Shiva D, and remember, you either learn from or you're learned from. Now, let's get back to the show. All right, welcome back, friends, to another great episode. We are doing a book episode finally on The One Thing, the surprisingly simple truth behind an extraordinary results. And this is by Gary Keller and Jay Papasan. I hope I said that right. If I did, that's a super cool last name. Anyways, let's get into it and focus on the important 5 key ideas I got from this book. And the first one and the most important one, I believe, is the focusing question. This is the core idea of the book, which revolves around this focusing question. What's the one thing you can do such that by doing it, everything else will be easier or unnecessary? This question is designed to help individuals focus on the most impactful tasks that will make all the other tasks either easier or irrelevant. And it's about finding the highest leverageable activity in your work or life, right? I'm still trying to get good at this idea where I can pinpoint the one thing that leverages my activity for everything else. So for example, hiring a team for this podcast is probably one of my most leverageable activities, purely because if you think about the question, what's one thing I can do? What is one thing that you can do such that by doing it, everything else will be easier or unnecessary? Well, if I have a team, my life will be easier because I won't have to do as much of the work, and some of it will be unnecessary because it's just repetitive, mundane tasks that could be, delegated out. And the Eisenhower matrix, for those of you that may or may not know about it, is a really good delegation system created by former President Eisenhower. And this is how he used to construct what was very important. And I believe this question also kind of frames and prioritizes that as well. So, let's think of another example, right? So let's say you're doing a business and you're not getting any sales or clients or whatever it may be, then your most leverageable task has to be getting clients, right? So then what is the one thing you can do that would make it easier to get clients or make it unnecessary for you to need to even do it yourself, right? What is the one thing you can do that will make everything else in your business easier or unnecessary? Well, probably marketing. Marketing would help you, get more clients, and that would make everything else easier. And then maybe hiring somebody would make some of the other tasks unnecessary for you, right? So I'm still trying to understand, the best way to figure this out on my stuff, because I'm sure many of you relate that you can just have this massive to-do list pile up and you want to hit it all, but at the same time you'll have burnout and all sorts of stuff. So it's all about leverageable tasks. And I've actually did an episode in my podcast called the 80-20 principle, also called the Pareto principle, where 80% of the results come from 20% of the efforts. And if you can pinpoint that exact 20%, you will have astronomical growth because you're doing the highest, most leverageable tasks. I believe that's a skill, easier said than done, but hopefully with more time, I actually get way better at pinpointing the 20%, and perhaps I'll do a separate episode just on that. But that is the focusing question of this book. That is the one thing, right? So then we have the domino effect. This is where the one thing that you're doing, which has leverage, starts a cascade, or also known as the dominoes, as one domino hits another domino. And that being said, the domino next to it could actually be even bigger domino. It doesn't have to be the same type of domino, right? Which is what gives you that momentum and builds this chain reaction of success. So just from the single domino that you're knocking down, others that are even progressively larger will start to cascade down when you focus on the right one thing. Another one is point 3 is time blocking. And I've had a lot of experience with this one. I've seen quite a bit of people try it. Cal Newport's book, Deep Work, talks about time blocking. That's actually where I first was introduced to it, early college days, and I tried it, and it does work. It's very intense, and perhaps I should get back to that because I was probably the most efficient in that time span. I will say there is one thing called Parkinson's Law where you actually fill out the allotted time you give something to complete that task, right? So if I say it's going to take me an hour to write this email, you'll take the whole hour. If you give yourself 15 minutes, you're more likely to do it in 15 minutes, but maybe you won't. So that's why time blocking is very difficult, but you'll get better the more you time how long tasks really take you. But that being said, time blocking is great. It's very efficient. I know not always we have the same schedules and things get hectic, but if you can master this one, you'll have a lot of productivity and success. But that being said, even if you can't time block everything, the authors are suggesting that you at least time block dedicated time for the one thing that you're supposed to do. And I think I've heard of the book called Eat the Frog or whatever, which is basically, hit the biggest thing in the beginning of the day and all these concepts, right? So if you can hit that one big thing, the leverageable task, the one thing that's going to move you closer to your goals and dreams every single day, then regardless, you're building compound growth, and at some point you're going to hit some success, right? That's like me in this podcast that I keep doing little by little, even though I have other things going on, right? I'm in my 20s. I'm still trying to figure things out. I'm still trying to make it. I have to, there was periods of time I have to maneuver between family, personal life, friends, work, finances, taxes, all sorts of stuff, right? Business, and many, many different things. So I'm still just learning and navigating, but at the same time, I've dedicated time to the one thing, which is this podcast, time and time again. So, I love podcasting, I love business, and I can't see myself not doing any of those. So I make sure I have time for it. But time blocking, huge. Number 4, the 4 thieves of productivity. So this book identifies 4 primary obstacles that can prevent you from focusing on the one thing. So 1, the ability to say no. 2, fear of chaos. 3, poor health habits. And 4, an environment that doesn't support your goals. So recognizing and addressing these thieves is crucial for maintaining focus and achieving your goals. I would say, going back to the first one, the inability to say no. As much as I hate to admit, I grew up becoming a people pleaser because I wanted people to like me, and I would say yes to everything. And that became really hard on me because I would put myself last, because saying yes to everyone is saying no to yourself. And having to learn to have enough self-love to say yes to me first can be kind of, it was very uncomfortable to learn, but I feel more powerful now when I'm able to say no. I still have moments where I hesitate, but I'm getting better and better, and that makes me feel even more confident. Makes me feel powerful and stronger because I'm not letting myself down, and that makes me feel good. My ability to say no to somebody. Also, speaking of productivity, there is a incredible product by my friends over at Magic Mind, who is this episode's sponsor, and they make an incredible drink that has caffeine in it, that has neurotropics in it, that give you this boost of productivity without the crash and jitters that coffee would give you because it's got matcha tea in it. And for those of you that may or may not know, tea has a balanced, sustained energy effect as opposed to coffee that gives you the jitters and then the crash. So, not to mention the lion's mane and cordyceps mushrooms help with the neurotropics and help you laser focus that energy in, and ashwagandha to lower stress. It's an incredible product, very clean ingredients. I don't normally ever sponsor items unless I truly believe in the product, and this is an incredible product for those of you that are health junkies looking for that little boost or that edge. And it's just a little shot, a healthy green drink type taste. And if you're really curious or interested, and many people, even Joe Rogan's, promoted this product. So there is a lot of merit and hype around it, and rightfully so. And if you're curious and you want to try out this product, My friends at Magic Mind actually gave us a generous discount for the Learn or Be Learned community. All you have to do is go to www.magicmind.com/belearned, BELEARNED, www.magicmind.com/belearned, and type in the code BELEARNED20, BELEARNED20, and you will get 56% off your next subscription for the next 10 days or 20% off a one-time purchase. So if you guys are curious, go ahead and try it out. And without further ado, let's just get right back into the episode. Thanks. Number 2, fear of chaos. Some people just can't jump, and there's no secret. There's nothing I can say or do that's gonna give you the secret sauce to success if you don't jump. And many people just have that fear of the unknown, fear of chaos, fear of failure, and they just don't jump. So these will all, not saying no, fear of chaos, these things will prevent you from doing that one thing. Poor health habits. This one's self-explanatory. I've talked about plenty of habits, good habits in this podcast time and time again. And I've talked about poor health habits and how that can compound in the opposite direction, send you towards a downward spiral. And number 4 in the thieves, your environment that doesn't support your goals. This is a hard one. And I talked about this maybe even just a few episodes ago about social structures and friendship groups. And if you don't have a good environment around you of people that are here to support you, right? They don't have to agree with what you like, but they should be able to support you. If they're just constantly cracking jokes at what you do, they don't have many goals for themselves. I was talking to a mentor the other day, and I was telling her, it seems like the reason a lot of people drag you down when you have big goals is because you walk around as a mirror reflection to themselves, and what they see in you is what they don't see in themselves. So the easiest thing to do is to attack you as a self-reflection, or also known as projecting, and drag you to their level to make them feel more comfortable instead of pushing to get to your level, because it's easier that way, right? Because you don't have to look at yourself in the mirror anymore. So you got to be very careful and pick your environment. It's very important. And then lastly, the success habit, number 5. This book emphasizes making this one thing a habit is key to long-term success. It's not just about identifying and focusing on the most important tasks or most important task once, but about consistently applying it every day, this principle every day. So this book suggests it takes, an average of 66 days to form a new habit. James Clear says it's about, I think, 30 or 40. So the numbers vary, but we're saying about 4 to 6 to 8 weeks, right? And once you form this new habit, it develops consistency and persistence and helps you apply the one thing principle easier to get to your goals and long-term success. So if you guys are looking at a big laundry list of to-dos and you're like, what do I do? How are people successful when they have this many things to do? You need to prioritize what's important. Obviously, not all of us can delegate getting our apartment cleaned or our house cleaned, or, paying for a personal chef so we don't have to worry about cooking anymore. We can focus more time on the one thing, right? So we can't all do that stuff. And I understand that's why, if you look at the Eisenhower matrix, he had the luxury of delegating anything needed. But, what's to say you can't eventually get there, but start somewhere in the, lower tier, right? You could buy one of those robotic vacuums and that takes off one little task, or, do dishes and chores on Sundays and focus on everything else, meal prep or something, right? So there are things we can do to minimize the laundry list of stuff. But then there's also other things like one-off tasks and stuff that add up. But this is to be said, is if it's really urgent, hit it, especially if it only takes a few minutes, just knock it off your list. Otherwise, I would say time block for the one big thing. Everything else is bonus, because if you can hit that one big thing every day, then you're making small steps towards large success, right? I hope you guys got a couple things out of this book. It was very somewhat self-explanatory. I will say this concept of identifying the one thing is something I'm still working on, and I think once I kind of hit it on the head better in the next coming months, I will do an episode on it to identify this Pareto principle of what really is a leverage mover, a needle mover per se. But I hope you guys got some stuff out of this book. It was overall pretty good. And remember, everybody, you either learn from or you're learned from. Thanks. I'll see you guys on the next episode.